Okay, we are going to be hopping in some mock drafts on the site today. Again, I want to remind y'all that these are going to be completely free mocks now. I am starting this live stream randomly, so it's going to take a few minutes for people to stream in here. So I'm actually going to be answering some Dynasty trade questions just so we have enough people to do this mock draft with us. But of course, if y'all want to make sure you actually know when we're live streaming and you can come out here, make sure you hit the bell next to the subscribe button, and YouTube will tell you when we're live, so you can actually hop in these drafts with us. But again, completely free mock drafts over on flockfantasy.com. We'll probably hop in a rookie, one quarterback, or a super flex, depending on what the people in the chat want and depending on exactly how far away these are from filling. Both lobbies right now only have 9 slots left. But let me pull up the questions that we have on the site at the moment and go ahead and actually answer the trades first. We'll do some of these trades, then we'll get into a mock draft, and then we'll actually review some Dynasty teams from people on this site. But let's shrink this down, move that over. And our first trade coming out from Rob, my guy, really appreciate you, and super interesting to see us sending away Jefferson for Roman Higgins. In my mind, there's absolutely no reason to do this whatsoever. This is actually going to be a 10-team. So it doesn't even matter what the league settings are. Like, we can go ahead and we can actually throw this into the trade calculator, right? Where you're sending Jefferson, getting back Higgins and Rome in a full PPR format, one quarterback. Doesn't matter if it's a super flex, one quarterback, tomato. Putting this into the trade calculator, you're going to see that you are getting absolutely cooked here. I don't even think that this is close enough to come up with a counter, to be honest. Like, realistically, Higgins would need to be a top 5 wide receiver for this deal to work out. And if we look at the sample of his entire career, this just frankly hasn't happened. So please make sure we're going to stick with the Jefferson side here for sure. Now let's move over to our next trade question. This one's coming out from C4MW, where we're sending away Waddle and we're getting back Tyreek and an early second. You're saying won the league this year, been trying to move Waddle. So if we look at Waddle, let me actually pull this up on the rankings page. He was horrendous last year, but also he's been horrendous every time that you've had no Tua. And when Tua has played, he's been fine. Like, let's go ahead and let's open this up. Last season, you had 2 weeks through the entire year where Waddle was the top 12 receiver, and you had 3 weeks through the entire season where he was the top 24. We can go back and look at 2023. You get 2 weeks where he was a top 12 guy in 2023. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, where he was a top 24 option. Comparing this to Tyreek, who obviously is going to be much older than Waddle. And if you were a contender, that's really the only scenario in which we are looking to add Tyreek. While Tyreek had a very bad season for his own standards, a lot of this, again, came due to the fact that you had no Tua. And in comparing this to Waddle, Tyreek was still much better. So if you're getting an extra early to mid second round pick next season on top of this, like, we can go ahead, throw this in the trade calculator as well. I'm going to assume that this is actually a super flex. So let me update this real quick. We're sending them Waddle. We're getting back Tyreek and an early second. We'll go early to mid second next year. Is saying that we are winning this deal. Even if this turns out to be a mid to late second round pick next year, you're still not losing it. So if you are a contending roster, which if we won the league last year, clearly we are, completely fine to go out there and make that move for Tyreek in the second round pick. If you're a rebuilder, I'd be a lot less excited about it. But super interesting to look at this from Mitchell. It says, my receivers are Chase, Puka, London, Ayuk, DK, Rice, Jennings, Leggett. So we are absolutely crushing at receiver. Hopefully our team's linked here. It's not. Okay. Well, let me go back to this then. My running backs are Swift, Warren, no first round pick. Do we trade London for the 102, which is Hampton? So we actually have the rookies loaded up onto the rankings page here. And if you're looking at the average ranking across the experts, you do see London ahead of Amari and Hampton here. London up at 21 overall as the wide receiver 9. Hampton averaged out as the RB4 at 32 overall. If you're going to sort by my rankings, let me see exactly where we have these guys. I have London currently sitting at 21 in my rankings, and I have Hampton sitting at 25. So I have these players extremely close. If your running backs are Swift and Warren, I am completely fine you going out there and getting Hampton. I would try to get an additional second rounder on it. Like if you could trade London for the 102 and the 202, great move. Like I would 100% be in line for this. I think you are losing this trade just slightly. So I'm actually going to hook you up with another free trade question voucher. So please don't accept this deal initially. Like don't accept this right away. Try to come up with a counter and see if they're willing to add a little bit more juice onto that 102. Because I do think that especially if you're looking at the average expert ranks on the site, you are kind of getting that value loss. I think maybe you can squeeze out a little bit more value from them, but I completely understand if we wanted to go with the 102, given the construction that we have with our team. But we're going to look at more teams in just 1 minute for members of the site. What I want to do real quick is I want to hop in a mock draft. So let me refresh this. I think we have enough people in here to fill this at this point. So I know we've actually had an insane amount of people doing mock drafts on the site with these public lobbies. If y'all haven't been paying attention in the Discord, the developers have been pushing out updates and improvements to these mock drafts pretty much every single day. Obviously, we launched this like a week ago in beta version, so there were bugs. I apologize if you experienced any. I know you did. The developers have been working their butts off, but I think we've already had 5,000 drafts done on the site in the first week, which is absolutely insane. So again, these are completely free. If you ever want to go hop in a public mock draft, whether it's a Dynasty startup, whether it's a Dynasty rookie draft, whatever you're wanting to do, there are options. But please let me know in the live chats where y'all are wanting us to draft from. Colin says he was literally sitting in a public mock draft waiting for it to get filled before he even saw that we were live. So if y'all let me know y'all want to see a 1 quarterback or a super flex, both lobbies have 9 spots open. So we can do either one. It's not like one's going to fill faster than the other. It's just going to be whatever y'all want to do is what we will. Okay, Colin's saying to go with the 1 quarterback. So let's go ahead. We are hopping into the 1 quarterback lobby here for this site. So please, if you can, go over to the mock draft page on flockfantasy.com. Hop in the 1 quarterback lobby. There are currently 1, 2, 3, now that spot gets taken. There's 5 spots open right now. I will send this link out in the live chat just in case somebody can't see it currently. But it's just flockfantasy.com. You just hit the mock drafts thing on the sidebar. You need an account, but again, it is completely free. You don't need to have a paid account here. I just sent the link to the site out in the live chat. There are 2 spots open. If anybody wants to get in here, 1 spot open now. And again, thank you so much, of course, for everybody joining with us. Draft room is full. Looks like we are going to be good to go. And if you are new to the site, let's try to get some more profile pics changed here. Let's try not to have the basic little blue duck with the background. Let's mix it up, ladies and gentlemen. But draft begins in 3, 2, 1. We are in here. We are selecting at the 102. If I'm looking at the 102, I am going to be preferring Hampton. I know if you're looking at the average expert ranks, because we have some absolute sickos on the site that for whatever reason think that Travis Hunter is a lock at 2, you may see Hunter go instead. But for me, when I'm selecting at 2, Hampton has the size, the athleticism, the receiving skill set, the landing spot, is pretty much everything that you would want. So I'm going to go Hampton. We see McMillan go then at pick 3. Trevion Henderson off the board at 4. Now for me, I actually do have Travis Hunter inside like a tier 4 guys in a 1 quarterback league. Like I would prefer Hunter over Henderson personally, but not going to fault anybody, of course, if they wanted to take a running back that profiles to have a crap ton of receiving volume in what should be a much improved offense. Egbuka over Judkins, in my mind, is crazy. Like, I would much prefer to see Judkins go there off the board at 7. But Mad Max says, are we going to go live on the redraft channel tonight? Maybe we do. We have a bunch of Dynasty teams that we need to look at on the site after this. Maybe we also mix in a Superflex mock draft later on this channel. But I know there are a bunch of people on the site that are having their annual subscriptions renewed. So there are a bunch of people on the site right now that are getting free team review vouchers. So we need to go ahead and we need to make sure that we're looking at their teams and coming up with rookie draft plans for people. Harvey goes at 10. Harvey going before Tyler Warren in this draft. Not going to fault anybody for that, of course. Okay. Sony Pat says, Henderson has a damaged foot. Pass. M3 Sandman says, I'm Chris, but the site isn't working for MetaMan. Apologies, guys. I'm Chris. Oh, Chris, can you please let me know why it's not working? It looks like it's working for everybody else. So if you could send a message in the site issues, that would be extremely helpful. And again, I do want to reiterate, devs are pushing out updates to the mock drafts for y'all every single day. So I appreciate y'all dealing with any bugs, especially I know when we first launched like a week ago and went into beta, obviously there are a bunch of bugs. From my experience right now, everything's seamless, but I know there are one-off instances. So it would help us a ton if you join the free Discord and in the site issues, you open up a ticket and let them know what's happening. Jerry asking Golden or Egbuka. Here in this draft, you actually see Egbuka go at the 106, 2 picks before Golden, and you actually see him go before Judkins, which I'm personally not a fan of. Oh, crap, I'm on the board. Let's see. Tyler Warren off. I would have preferred Warren, but I'm going to go ahead and take Luther Burden at the 202. I think strong prospect profile, but the issue, of course, is just absolute garbage landing spot for him to be going to the Bears and potentially being either the 3rd or 4th option in that offense and not necessarily knowing. But if we're looking at Golden or Egbuka, for me personally, I think that I would much prefer the player Egbuka, but again, he is the wide receiver 3 at the moment in Tampa, where Golden very reasonably can project out as the wide receiver 1 in Green Bay. So I wouldn't fault you whatsoever if you wanted to go ahead and you wanted to take Golden ahead of Egbuka. I have them ranked back-to-back inside the same tier. If I was a rebuilding team, I probably prefer Egbuka. If I was a contending team, I probably prefer Golden. But yeah, please, thank you for reporting that issue. That would help a ton. Let's see, Higgins or Burden. For me, I think that they're in the same tier, and I think you can make an argument for either one. I think Burden was the slightly better prospect, but if we're looking at landing spot, I much prefer the landing spot for Higgins. So almost maybe we can use the same cop-out that we had for Egbuka versus Matthew Golden, where if you're a contender, maybe you go Higgins with the possibility that he helps you in the short term. If you're a rebuilder, maybe you go ahead and you take Burden just as best player available and hope that we get that long-term upside here. Okay. Jaden Blue goes off at the 210. Very unimpressive prospect, but the best landing spot you could have possibly asked for. Hydronic says Harvey's going to be RB3. Harvey going at the 110, I'm completely fine with that price point. As long as you're not taking Harvey ahead of Judkins, Henderson, Genty, Hampton, I'm fine with it. If you're going into drafts taking Harvey ahead of like somebody that, in my opinion, just had a much better production profile with Judkins, it's going to be tough for me. Because the thing is, Judkins doesn't really find a bad landing spot either, right? Like, Judkins can be the starting running back. It's a much worse offense. Don't get me wrong. Like, I would have way rather had Judkins in Denver than Cleveland. But I think that from a prospect profile perspective, there's a little bit of a difference between the two guys. Okay. Let's maybe get a little interesting here with who we decide to pick. I think I know who we're going to go with. We have an option for one of two guys. I've seen Jaden Blue actually going at the end of the second round, the beginning of the third round in my own rookie drafts that aren't just mocks. So for me here, I'm going to go ahead. I'm actually going to take Mason Taylor. I've seen some people making a big deal out of his career yards per route run, which I completely understand, like, that being a valid statistic to look at. And y'all should know that, like, whenever I go to the prospects page, a ton of times when I'm looking at wide receivers, we're about to actually get the tight ends loaded in a prospect page for y'all as well. I'm scrolling down and looking at career yards per route run for a lot of these guys. But again, when you look at some of these names like Malik Neighbors that maybe have a lower career yards per route run than some of these other top prospects, very similar to Mason Taylor, you have to contextualize it, right? You have to understand, oh, okay, he had to play against Brian Thomas Jr. and Malik Neighbors early on at LSU. So how the hell are you going to expect a player like Mason Taylor to look productive when he has some of the toughest competition in college? So I don't exactly know how you could be hypercritical. I would rather just go ahead and take the guy that had decent production this past year once he had no Neighbors and no Brian Thomas, gets the NFL draft capital, and finds a spot where he could very easily be the number 2 option in his offense. Okay. Let's move this over. My opinion, the best players on the board right now are actually going to be the running backs. Possibly mix in a tight end as well, like a Arroyo or Fannin. Tough spot is Browns landing spot's crap, but that prospect profile is good. Seahawks landing spot's great, but that prospect profile is not so much. Felton off the board at 311. Woody Marks goes. We need to, on the site, go ahead and actually list out the team that these players are with. I'll add that to the devs list. But yeah, again, any other suggestions? There's a section in the Discord as well that cite suggestions that isn't just site issues. And if you have anything that you ever want to see listed out as improvements, can be legitimately anything, please let us know. We'd be happy to get that done for you. But I'm probably just going to double tap tight end. You can go with like a Devin Neal and just say, okay, or maybe like a Jordan James. But for me, getting a tight end with the draft capital goes day 2 at the beginning of the 4th round, I think is going to be completely fine. So we did in this draft is we went Hampton, Burden, Taylor, Arroyo. And this was a 1 quarterback league, of course. So that's why you're seeing Cam Ward go here in the middle of the 2nd round. I'm completely fine with taking Cam Ward in round 2. I think you could have taken Cam Ward as early as the 203. I probably still prefer like Tyler Warren, Luther Burden over him. But if you wanted to take Cam Ward over Trey Harris or Tootin, completely fine in my mind. Taking Jackson Dart at the 207 in a 1 quarterback draft, not a big fan of. I would have preferred Bash. I would have preferred Kyle Williams. I don't think I'd be going to go Dart until round 3 of 1 quarterbacks. Seahawks asking why is it not a snake draft? Because it's a rookie draft. Rookie drafts are just linear drafts. If you go into a startup draft on the site, it'll be a snake. But what we're going to do now at this point is we're going to move over and actually dive into some of these teams on the site. And later on, if y'all want, we can hop into his Superflex rookie mock. But again, y'all don't even need me to hop into a Superflex rookie mock whenever you want. It's completely free on the site for y'all. But this is the board we selected from the 2nd slot in this. And we can let this run out. I think this team at 11 may actually be on auto, so I don't necessarily know if seeing them does much here. Isaiah Bond off at the 411. Maybe we stream an underdog draft tonight again. I talked about this earlier, but we definitely need to make sure we're looking at teams for people on the site here. So we have the post-draft rankings automatically uploaded for all the drafts done. So you can see like where your team stacks up with the expert ranks. Now, what sucks is, and it looks like this was the 5,000th draft done on the site. So, of course, thank you so much for everybody doing drafts. But what sucks here is, since it's a rookie draft, obviously it's just going to be the team that gets the 101 always wins the draft. You add in Ashton Jeanty, and you can see that Ashton Jeanty is arguably more valuable by himself than the entire team I drafted out of the 2 slot. So this page is cool for like startup drafts, but in your rookie draft, it's not that valuable. But let's move this over and let's actually check out some of these teams, and then we can get in a Superflex rookie mock on the site. And again, if y'all wanted to go and participate in those mock drafts, just go to the mock drafts page on flockfantasy.com. You can hop in one whenever you want. They're completely free. But let's start checking out some of these teams on the site for people, and then we could possibly hop in that Superflex. Migro says, first year doing Dynasty, started this up after the season ended. Feel pretty good about it. Just want to know where to go in the future. Love the vids. Keep it up. Really appreciate you, my guy. Going to be super excited to check this out. So if we look at this league, relatively even, which should be the expectations for a startup draft that happened this offseason, right? We haven't had enough time to play out for really massive discrepancies to show up in this league. You do have a team that I was actually able to just accumulate a ridiculous amount of rookie picks, where they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 future first round picks, while also sitting with Cam Ward, McCarthy, Penix, Puka, Brian Thomas, Rashee Rice, Jordan Addison, Jalen Waddle. So that team has a ton of value. Obviously, we don't have to be super concerned about them when it comes to contending this next year, but we are sitting down in the middle of this. You can see with the league analyzer, teams 8 through 2 are all about the same. And then you get that drop down to teams 9 through 12. We are in that middle of the pack in this league when it comes to straight up value. Now, it's going to be super interesting to point out is what we have with the rookie picks. We are sitting with a 2026 first, but it's not our own first. And why this is going to be important is we have no incentive to ever look to rebuild this year. What's nice about having your future first is if the wheels fall off your team for whatever reason, maybe Ashton Jeanty gets injured, then at that point you could turn around and you could actually look to start selling contending assets and earn a super high rookie pick next offseason and get your rookie pick to be the 101, the 102, and bring in the next Ashton Jeanty, Caleb Williams level prospect. But we don't have that ability. So what it makes us want to do is just go all in on contending this year. There's no upside in having a team that's built for the future at this point. When we go position by position here, quarterback, good spot to be in with Drake May and Kyler Murray. Obviously, we could use a third quarterback here. This is a 12-team Superflex start 10 PPR tight end premium with a pretty big tight end premium. So it's nice to see that we have McBride. But a third quarterback, it's not going to hurt us, right? If we were able to bring somebody in. Going over and looking at running back, this is the strength of the team. We can even see this with how it's listed out in terms of value. We have the second most valuable running back room here with Ashton Jeanty, Caleb Johnson, Chuba Hubbard, David Montgomery, even Tajay Spears, Tyler Algier. So we have the top end production, and at the same time, we have the bottom end depth. Now, I would say personally, because you are situated in a way that we are highly incentivized to try to contend this year based off us not having our own 2026 first, and we go over to wide receiver where maybe we're a little lackluster with Ted McMillan, Devonta Smith, Jaden Higgins, Ricky Pearsall, Jacoby Myers, or maybe we have long-term upside, but in terms of what we're going to be looking at for this next season, I actually don't mind selling one of the rookies that we have right now if it means that we can get our team in a position that is going to help us win right this second. So what we could potentially look at is maybe this roster up here at the top where they are sitting in a spot that, again, they have no hope whatsoever to contend this year, and instead everything's situated for the long term. Now, the asset that we want to be selling this rebuilding roster probably would be Caleb Williams. Obviously, Chuba Hubbard, David Montgomery are going to have more value to a team that's looking to contend rather than a team that's looking to rebuild. So if you were to look to maybe send Caleb Williams and get back a depth receiver like Jalen Waddle, and then another piece that's going to help us contend, that'd be very interesting. The difficult part about this is their other quarterbacks are Penix, McCarthy, right? So if we go through and if we actually look at the value gap that we have, if we were trying to get that additional quarterback in, it's not like it's possible for us to just send Caleb Williams and get back Michael Penix. Michael Penix is worth much more than Caleb Williams, right? I mean, if you were to make a trade like this, you would just be absolutely robbing them, and there's no way whatsoever that this gets done. So we just kind of have to figure out what additional piece could we add on to here to get to that Michael Penix, Jalen Waddle combo, where we have the wide receiver depth piece coming in, while at the same time, we maybe solve our quarterback 3 issue. So the 2026 first that we have is Jet Nation. Looking at Jet Nation here, where are they in the league analyzer? They're in at 6. How's their team? They have Lawrence, Goff, Bijan, Achane, Mixon, Kamara, Connor, Jefferson, Terry, Sutton, Evans, George Kittle. This is a contending team. This is going to be a mid to late first round pick. So if we go ahead and we add in a mid to late first, just to see where the value gap goes, you still may be winning this deal. If you could get back, like, I would maybe prefer McCarthy. But regardless, if you could get back a Penix and Waddle, get back a McCarthy and Waddle, that could potentially be interesting. Going over and looking at other potential trades, what we really need to do is try to find some of these teams that are rebuilding, right? This team looks like it's going to contend. Let's go to the team that's here at the very bottom. This team at the bottom is set up in a way that they're here to contend this year, and then their roster is going to be absolute garbage starting in 2026, but they're probably not the best trade partners. Looking for a team that maybe has an extra quarterback that they can get rid of. Much easier said than done. QB Daycare has Daniels, Caleb, Richardson, so they're not sitting with an additional guy. So outside of going after that team that's number 1 in the league analyzer at the moment, where they have the incentive to maybe give us that short to medium term production for the long-term upside of like Caleb in the first, I think that could be very interesting. If you wanted to ask for Rice instead of Waddle, if you wanted to ask for Addison instead of Waddle, I think that'd be much better. That would maybe be my starting point, is asking for Rice and Penix or Rice and McCarthy, whatever you prefer. See what they say. If they accept, beautiful. We make out like bandits. If they don't, then maybe we have to come down to Addison. And if they don't accept that, then maybe we have to come down to Waddle. I think Waddle is the drawing point, though. Because going over to tight end, we're in a perfect spot, right? Pretty big premium. You can put a tight end into the flex if we need to. We have McBride, Likely, Brenton Strange. So McBride in this format, just going to absolutely crush. And Likely Strange, if you needed to throw into a flex spot, reasonably you could. So overall, I think it's a balanced team. I just think, again, going back to the situation that we have with the future first us that we're owning not being our own, I think you're highly incentivized to try to contend right now. We have a lot of these young assets like Caleb, Ginty, Tet, Jaden Higgins that have a lot of long-term value and a lot of long-term upside, but maybe aren't going to be able to help us contend right now. So I don't mind at all when we especially have the running back depth of Ginty, Chuba, Montgomery, Spears, Algier, of us taking Caleb Johnson, sending Caleb Johnson to get a wide receiver, maybe like Jordan Addison, that we perceive can help us win, and a quarterback 3 of note. So that's what I would be looking to do at this point. But again, I really do appreciate you, and I really hope I was able to help you out in some way here. And yeah, congrats on joining your first Dynasty League. I hope you have a ton of fun with it. If you're anything like me, it will then consume your life for the next 10 plus days. 10 plus years. I apologize. Okay. But where did we looked at that team for micro. Okay. Let's move this over and let's look at this for Max Papakana. Says, help me out, Mason. I feel like I'm close to being a contender, but not sure what the right move is. And oh crap, I see we're getting questions in the chat. Harris says, is he going to do a super flex mock? Yeah, so we just did a 1 quarterback mock draft on the site. Let me look at a couple of these teams and then we can get into super flex mock as well. But again, I know that a lot of people have their memberships rolling over on the site. So a lot of people are getting free team reviews. And I need to make sure that we can be getting through as many of these as we possibly can, preferably before people's rookie drafts. That way we can try to help out the best we can. But I'm sorry, I'm having to go and turn off super chats real quick. Super chats are not supposed to be on. Okay. Turned off. Perfect. Says, help me out, Mason. Feel like I'm close to being a contender, but not sure what the move is. So first thing that we have to acknowledge, right, is the team at 1 is an absolute juggernaut. Team at 1 is dominant. They have Gibbs, HN, Taylor, Swift, Jefferson, Neighbors, Higgins, Flowers, and both Bowers and McBride. Wild team. This is going to be the main team that we are having to go up against. It is a 12-team start 8 1 quarterback format. It's a pretty shallow league. And if we are wanting to differentiate ourselves from this roster, I think a big way we can do it is going to be the quarterback position, where they are sitting with Bo Nix, Dak. Obviously, it's going to be very difficult to contend with them at running back and wide receiver when they arguably have the best 2 position groups there in the league. But we are not too shabby ourselves here. Now, second thing I want to address is if you look at the league analyzer, we are sitting as the second team by also a wide margin. There's the team at 1, a significant drop to us, and then a significant drop to the rest of the league. These are the 2 teams battling it out, and realistically, that's it. Quarterback, we're in a great spot. We have Josh Allen. Nothing really to say. If you could sell Herbert and get a bunch for him, we would. If you could sell Penix and get a bunch for him, we would. Maybe we can go over to one of these teams that's rebuilding. Maybe they'd be excited about picking up Michael Penix if they don't have a quarterback. Like this team that's sitting with Tua as their QB, in my opinion, they maybe should consider rebuilding. And even if they didn't, sending an offer to see if they wanted to pick up Justin Herbert or pick up Michael Penix may be interesting, because we can go into the season with Allen, Herbert, Penix, no problem, right? Especially if we look at the waiver wire where you have Justin Fields sitting out there on the waivers. So let's move this over. So if we were looking to try to make a deal with them, I think obviously the main thing is there any way that we could get up to Barkley? And if this team's thinking that they may need a rebuild, something that we could possibly entertain here is if you wanted to try to send, and I'm sorry, again, I'm going to have to change this to a 1 quarterback league with the trade calculator. If you wanted to try to send Michael Penix and Brees, and in return, try to get Barkley on a team that we are trying to contend with that top juggernaut, if that other team's rebuilding, maybe we can pull this off. If it's not Penix, maybe they'll do the deal for Herbert. But regardless, I think that could be interesting on a team that we have Josh Allen. Is going over to running back, we have Brees, we have Hubbard, we have Charbonnet. So definitely we're not weak here. Like we can get by with this running back room. But when comparing us to the top team in the league, it does look very weak in comparison. Going over to wide receiver, we have Brian Thomas, London, Worthy, Ayuk, Leggett. Great wide receiver room. Not too much to discuss there. Going over to tight end, we're sitting with David Njoku, Tucker Kraft, Pat Frymuth. Again, of course, we don't have Bowers. We don't have McBride. But we're going to be able to get the job done between these 2 tight ends. One of Njoku or Kraft should be close to top 5 at the position this year, even if I'm not going to be able to tell you what guy that will be right this second. Now, thank God we have the 105, because looking at the rookie picks, this can be something that puts us within striking distance of actually contending with that top team. Now, looking at how the tier breaks are, the 105, let's pull up the rankings page here. This is a 1 quarterback league. So the 105, you're looking at a range where you're going to be getting one of Hunter, McMillan, Henderson, and I wouldn't take Judkins. I'd be taking one of Hunter, McMillan, Henderson. Kind of up to you here. Based off your team, based off your league settings, I think Henderson could be a natural fit where he comes in. He's arguably the running back 2 in the short term, could potentially be the running back 1 in the long term for us, builds out the top end upside of the position, while at the same time, we actually get some additional depth here as well. Going over and looking at the 111, that tier is going to be starting off with Igbuka. It's going to be Egbuka, Golden, Loveland, Warren, Caleb Johnson, Luther Burden, and RJ Harvey. For me, I would definitely prefer like RJ Harvey over Luther Burden. No question about that. And it's a non-tight end premium format. It's a league in which you can only start up to 4 wide receivers at the very most. So the 111, with the context of this league and with your team in particular, I would be going for Harvey or Caleb Johnson specifically with that pick. But another possibility of what we could be looking at is, again, if we can find some of these teams that maybe are looking to build around youth and play for the long term, maybe we could actually try to start stacking up some of these picks with our players to upgrade to veteran studs, where I agree with you, we are looking to try to contend right now. Like, this is an example of a roster that where their number 2 RB is Trey Benson, they realistically should have no shot to contend with the 2 top teams up here. So if they're willing to admit that, they're willing to bend the knee, if we could potentially make a trade to get up to Bijan, obviously it'd be an absolute no-brainer. The difficulty is, in a league like this, it's going to be extremely difficult to get to Bijan. I mean, if we could send the 104 and the 111 and be bringing in Bijan Robinson, we would, and it'd be an absolute no-brainer. But again, trade calc saying we're robbing him, so it's going to be much easier said than done. I would even be willing to throw in the second rounders if that's going to do anything here. Say 2025 mid-second, 2025 late second, which still we're winning this deal. But maybe if this other team is willing to say that they are rebuilding, if we could send them the 105, the 111, the 205, the 208, hell, throw in the third. We have depth across the board. And just give them the entire draft class. We're still winning the deal. But that's one potential trade partner. Here, the Barkley team. Again, if you wanted to go after Barkley, sending all your picks for Barkley would for sure be an overpay. Like, we're not wanting to do this. That would go from you're winning the deal to you're losing the deal. In this instance, I would say that if we could keep the 104, send the 111, our 2 second rounders, and the third to get to Barkley, 100%, I would go ahead and look to do that. Are there any other teams that could be considered rebuilders here? This team has the 103, so maybe they're actually going to be able to bring in a difference-making player. So I think if you're sticking and picking with your rookie picks at the moment, the 105, again, you take whoever falls between McMillan, Hunter, Henderson. The 111, I would personally be going for Caleb Johnson or RJ Harvey. If you whiff on both of those guys, if Egbuka's there, I think you go Egbuka. I probably prefer the tight ends over... I'd probably prefer the tight ends over Golden and Egbuka just because you can only start up to 4 wide receivers in this format. But my preference would be we go to those rebuilding teams. We try to send them like Michael Penix and Brees and go get that upgrade to Barkley. Or we try to go ahead and we send them those picks. Just send everything we have and try to get Bijan. Or maybe just package together a smaller combination of those and instead go for that Barkley team as well. But I really do appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out in some way here, my friend. But let's move this over to this next question from Hernia. And let's check out these 2 trades real quick. First one from Sean says, hey, Mason, just got offered Jameson, Jaden Reed, and Frymuth for Matthew Golden. What are your thoughts? Is this rookie fever? I think Frymuth is close to a 0. I think Jaden Reed's a wide receiver 4 at this point. I think it's a very fair deal. If you're a contender and you think Jameson's going to make a bigger difference than Golden right now, I think you can go for it. Logan says, would you trade Jacobs or Taylor for the 104 and Darnell Mooney? I've won 3 years in a row and could still win, but I would like getting a rookie as well. The 104, you're looking at like McMillan. And yeah, I definitely have McMillan ranked over Jacobs. So I would send Jacobs for the 104. And Darnell Mooney makes no difference in that deal, regardless of what side he's on. But going ahead and checking this out for Hernia, says, won the league last year, looking to maintain momentum. Traded away Chase Brown for the 105. Thought they'd take another running back, honestly. Obviously, at this point, Chase Brown's a massive, massive winner. But even with that being said, we can go ahead and we can actually just pull up the overall ranks in a one quarterback format. Look at where Chase Brown is in the expert ranks in comparison to some of these other rookies. Chase Brown is down here in a range where you still probably prefer the 105 over him. But moving this over, you got Henderson there. Yeah, I would rather have Henderson over Chase Brown. Like looking at this, let's sort these by my ranks. I have Chase Brown RB12 and I have Henderson RB8. So even though Chase Brown is a big winner from the NFL draft, you still won the trade and you got off a lot of downside risk as well. So great move. Caleb at the 110, Scatterbo at the 207, Higgins at the 209 is massive. And then traded my 210 and Purdy for May. Great. Absolutely love to hear that. So looking at this team, the big thing here is it is a 10 team start 2 wide receiver, 1 flex, where we are not concerned about depth in the slightest. The only thing that matters here is the highest ceiling you can possibly get. I mean, if we take away the quarterback and we take away the tight end, there are only 50 total running back and wide receivers being started across this league. So you are heavily incentivized. 2-for-1, 3-for-1 deals. Like us going through and trading the 210 and Purdy for May is the perfect example of the type of trade that we are wanting to do. Like those second round picks are frankly not going to make a difference in this league. And pulling up this team, we can already tell by the league analyzer, we are by far and away the best team in the league, obviously. But I can tell you right away as we look at this, that there are very clear trades that we can make. And those trades are going to be selling assets that maybe have a cap ceiling and 2-for-1 deals to go get upgrades elsewhere. So when we're looking at a player like George Pickens, when we're looking at a player like Jaden Higgins, even when we're looking at a player like Caleb Johnson, Cam Scatterbo, like depending on your league format, you can make an argument that these are structural pieces and these are super exciting names to have on a dynasty team. However, in a start 2 wide receiver, 1 flex, there is no world in which Jaden Higgins or George Pickens ever makes a difference on your roster. So when we're looking at them, it would be amazing if we can just find a way to maybe send Higgins and Pickens together to go get a better wide receiver, to send Higgins and Caleb Johnson together to go get a better running back, to send Pickens and Scatterbo together and go get a better RB. So that's the structure of every single one of these deals that we want to make. Starting off at quarterback, we have the best quarterback room in this league. We have Daniels, May, and Stroud. You'll love to see it. There's nothing I can discuss here. It's a 10-team, 1 quarterback format, so it's not like we're going to be able to get a ton of value if we were to sell May, if we were to sell Stroud. Going over and looking at what we have at running back, we're sitting with Bijan, Barkley, Henderson, Caleb Johnson. We have the number 1 running back room in the league. Wide receiver, it says we have the 3rd wide receiver room in the league. I guess this team has Neighbors, Puka, Rice, right? So that's very strong. The number 1 team has both Chase and Lamb, but honestly, I guess the league analyzer is just acknowledging the fact that this is a very shallow league. So they're putting a massive premium on having Chase and Lamb. But I mean, obviously we have way more depth than them. And we have the 2nd best tight end room in this league. So very simple things that I think you could do with this team. When we have some of these assets down here at the very bottom, like Jaden Higgins, George Pickens, that have no upside to ever move the needle for us, if we can ever like package George Pickens with a future 2nd and go get a future 1st, if you can ever package Jaden Higgins with a future 2nd and go get a future 1st, trades like that are no-brainers, auto accepts, because if that 1st round pick turns into the 101, 102, you actually have the upside to bring in a difference-making player for this team when these guys, frankly, because of your format, have no upside to be that. Let's go team by team here, and let's try to identify some of these rebuilding rosters and see if we can make these 2-for-1 deals to get improvements. Like, this team is sitting with Xavier Worthy. I mean, if we could send Higgins and Pickens to go get Worthy, absolute no-brainer. Obviously, that rebuilding roster has no interest in Tyreek. Going over and looking at the St. Louis Browns, I mean, this is a roster that I would think maybe compared to the contending teams in this league, they should be looking to rebuild. They actually don't have a lot of wide receiver depth either, so maybe it'd be possible to get to A.J. Brown here, and maybe something you could do is try to send Garrett Wilson and like Jaden Higgins, or Garrett Wilson and A.J. Brown to go make that move. So let's go Jaden Higgins. With the expert ranks, who's ranked higher between Jaden Higgins and George Pickens? George Pickens is. But regardless, hell, let's throw them all together. Let's look at these rankings. So checking this out, would be saying that we lose this deal on the surface, but maybe we keep a player like Higgins and we are trying to send Garrett Wilson, George Pickens, and go get A.J. Brown. I'm fine slightly losing on a deal like this, specifically because of the way that your format is, and these players, you should almost value them as a zero. They're just throw-ins. So if you could make a pivot like that, that would make a ton of sense. Obviously, if there's any way that we could get to Genty, we would. If we can send like Henderson. Let's go Henderson. In return, we're looking for Genty. And what can we maybe offer this team that they would be interested in? The wide receiver depth is very shaky again. Obviously, those guys like Pickens aren't going to get us here. So maybe a Garrett Wilson and Trevion Henderson. If it's saying that we're slightly winning, we're not getting the deal done because of the format. So I think you will have to throw in some other names. Throw in George Pickens to this deal, where you're sending Henderson, Pickens, and Garrett Wilson to try to go get Genty. Hell, throw in Higgins too. Not T, but Jaden. Yeah, if it's saying we slightly lose this trade, we're completely fine doing it. Go out there and go get Genty. Because then you're looking at a team that, yeah, maybe we don't have Garrett Wilson, Jaden Higgins, George Pickens, but we're going into the season with Genty, Bijan, Barkley, St. Brown, London, Ladd, Tyreek. And a league where you only start 2 wide receivers and 1 flex. So again, you have by far and away the best team in the league. It's going to be difficult for us to come up with much, but if there is anything that we are wanting to do, it is those big time 2-for-1, 3-for-1 deals where we are hopefully just getting the massive improvement inside the starting lineup. But let me move over and we're going to get this last one done for CB63, and then we'll go ahead and we'll get another rookie draft going. So of course, if you want to prepare to hop into rookie draft with us, it's going to be on flockfantasy.com. They're completely free. They're always the public mock drafts that you can always hop in if you want. Rookie draft 1 quarterback, rookie draft super flex, dynasty startup super flex, dynasty 1 quarterback. I'm not getting in it right now, so if you get in, it may start without me. But after we're done with this next team, we are going to be looking at the super flex rookie mock if you're wanting to get in with us. But let's dive into this for CB63. Really do appreciate you, my friend. Going to be excited to look at it. You're asking for a general overview plus thoughts on the draft pick selection. You're thinking Genty and Hampton at 1 and 2, then Tet or Hunter at the 104. Or should the 104 be Trevion given the relative running back class strength? The 112 through the 202, I should be able to trade up for wide receivers, tight ends. How many picks do we have? Was considering Ward, but I have 3 2026 firsts and a strong quarterback draft. We are Bayou Bounties. It looks like we already had our rookie draft. I'm really sorry, my friend, that we are looking at this 4 days after you submitted it. I'm really sorry that we weren't able to map out your exact rookie draft. Let me hook you up with a bunch of free trade questions just in case there's anything afterwards that you are wanting to follow up on. We'll be excited to check out exactly what happened and exactly where we went. So we had the 101, the 102, and the 104. So with those picks, we walk away with Ginty, Hampton, and Tet McMillan. I have Ginty ranked at 1. I have Hampton ranked at 2. I have McMillan ranked at 4. So you did exactly what I'd be wanting to. Then moving over from that, we had the 112, the 201, and the 202. With those picks, we were able to get Luther Burden, RJ Harvey, and am I missing somebody else? And Matthew Golden. Hell yes, my friend. I have Golden ranked size of 108. I think you absolutely crushed this draft. And I think you are set up in a really strong spot in the long term, especially as you look at this team. We have 3 2026 first round picks. So in my opinion, when we sit with the roster like this, you are heavily incentivized to structure every deal and every move you make on this team to try to optimize for players that you think can be worth more next offseason than they are this offseason. So when you're looking to make those deals, it's not inherently like, oh, okay, George Pickens may be a good example, right? Because George Pickens is still young. Like, let's go ahead and let's pull this up. George Pickens just turned 24 years old. So it's not like you're expecting George Pickens to, God dang, look at these freaking delts. This man is jacked. But you're not expecting George Pickens to be a worse 25-year-old football player than he is a 24-year-old. But that's not necessarily the question that you're asking on these rebuilds. The questions you're asking on these rebuilds is the player going to be worth more, less, or the same next offseason? And if you think that the most likely outcome is they are worth less next offseason, and we can pivot over and we can get either a rookie or a future rookie pick, that the more likely outcome is they're worth more next offseason, regardless of what the production landscape looks like or the production timeline, that's the kind of move that we are wanting to make, because we'll have all offseason next year. We'll have 7-8 months where you can go through and you can take an asset that maybe accrued in value during the year and either look to hold on to that and draft somebody in 2026, or maybe flip it and sell it for a veteran at that point. So if we are trying to identify some of these players on your current roster that we could say are going to be worth less, or more likely than not are on the trajectory that even if their production remains the same, they'll be worth less next offseason, I don't want to include any of the rookies like Ginty, Hampton, Harvey, McMillan, Matthew Golden, Luther Burden. All these guys have a very strong chance and maybe a high likelihood to be worth more next offseason, because they're not going to be giving you a ton of production this year, right? It's not like Luther Burden is really helping a contending team. So you are just kind of holding on and hoping for that production in 2026. So I'm not looking to sell any of the rookies that we have. The veterans, when we're looking at George Pickens, I think Pickens is of the age, and as well where Pickens is in rankings right now, where nobody's really excited about him, especially with what the quarterback situation is in Pittsburgh. You're not going to be getting a ton if you could sell him. Now, obviously, if you could sell George Pickens for a 2026 first round pick, you do that right this second, but it is going to be much easier said than done. So given the age profile of Pickens and given where his value is at this point, I don't necessarily know if we could classify him as that asset that is likely to lose value. Going over and looking at Chris Olave is going to turn 25 next month. So next offseason, Chris Olave is going to be viewed as a 26-year-old wide receiver. So with Olave, I think that you get to a point at this age that it is kind of make or break when it comes to the actual value 12 months from now. How does he produce? If he produces well, he should be worth more. If he ends up being a wide receiver 3 in fantasy, he's probably worth less. If you look at where Olave is getting drafted in redraft leagues at the moment, he's getting drafted as a wide receiver 3. So if you're a big Olave believer and you think, oh my gosh, no, Chris Olave, he's priced wrong in the market. He's going to be a top 24 wide receiver this season, and he is going to be able to gain in value going into next year. You don't necessarily need to be moving on from Olave, but he would be a player that I'm throwing on the trade block. Again, similar to George Pickens, especially in a Superflex league. If you can move off Olave for a 2026 first round pick, that's an asset I know will be worth more 12 months from now than it is today. So that's a move that I'm looking to make here. TJ Hawkinson, I definitely think that this is a player that is the perfect example of, like, he turns 28 in July. You're not expecting TJ Hawkinson to be less productive in 2026 when he's 29 in comparison to in 2025 when he's 28, but you should expect his dynasty value to go down. Like, George Kittle's a top 3 tight end every year and has been forever, and George Kittle still finds a way for his dynasty value to decline just given his age. So with where we sit with this roster right now, I don't think you sell any of the rookies. AR and Daniel Jones, Aaron Rodgers, you're not getting anything for them if you try to sell them right now. If anybody's willing to send you a second and a third for Daniel Jones or a second and a third for Aaron Rodgers, you go ahead and you take those picks right this second. But again, it's probably not going to happen. Trey Benson's another example. I'd almost treat him like a rookie. You're not going to get anything for him. If you could sell him for a 2026 second rounder, by all means, go for it. We're holding on to the rookies. I think you throw Pickens and Olave on the trade block. If you can get a future first for him, 100%. We are cashing out, but much easier said than done. Really, the only asset I think you need to aggressively shop here is going to be TJ Hawkinson, and it shouldn't be the toughest thing in the world. Like, if we go over and look at some of these contending teams here, this team is Bijan, Mixon, Nico, Ladd, Lamar, Baker. I would assume that this is a team that maybe is looking to contend. And if there's a world in which you could send Hawkinson and get back a younger asset like Rome Odunze, or send Hawkinson and that 2027 second that you have for more receptions and get back their 2026 first, I think that'd be very interesting. Let's go and see if we can find any other contending teams that potentially need another tight end. So this team's sitting with Tyler Warren as their tight end. Now, I personally, I'm out of touch with the dynasty market, but we can pull this up with the rankings on the site. I have Hawkinson ranked. Ooh, interesting. People on the site have Tyler Warren as the tight end 4. I was going to say, I would honestly rather have Hawkinson over Warren. I have them very close at 72 and 83 in our ranks. But I mean, maybe if this team's viewing themselves as a contender, if you wanted to try to flip Hawkinson for Tyler Warren, that could be an interesting pivot. This team here is rebuilding, right? They have a bunch of future picks, so it's not like they are going to be a natural trade partner. This team here looks like they may be contending. They have Achane, Montgomery, Pacheco, JSN, AJ Brown, Zay Flowers. So if we're looking at some assets that could rise in value over the next 12 months, besides the rookie picks, they have another rookie like Jaden Higgins. So maybe you go ahead and maybe you see if you can send Hawkinson for Jaden Higgins in a second. They receive Hawk. We get back Higgins and an early to mid second, or let's call it a late to mid second, right? Because this is supposed to be a team that is contending. Saying fair deal. And again, if you are rebuilding roster, I think you make an argument for the rookie and the rookie pick in that instance. But in reality, I think you absolutely crushed your rookie draft. Not only did you crush your rookie draft, but you were set up in a way in which you can be very competitive in 2026. And we want to gear everything that we have this season to that 2026 offseason. But I really appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out in some way with this. Again, I did hook you up with a couple free trade questions. So please, if you ever have any trades that you want me to look at, don't hesitate to send them my way. I'd be super happy to take a look at them for you. But let's move this over and let's take a break and let's actually get in another mock draft on the site real quick. So if anybody wants to join a mock with us, I'll send the link to flockfantasy.com in the chat. But again, I want to reiterate, these are completely free. You can do these whenever you want. Where we are joining right now is going to be the Superflex rookie draft. We are in at pick 7. We are in the rookie Superflex public mock draft lobby. If anybody wants to get in with us, looks like we already had a decent amount of people join. We have only one empty spot and Hobson is in. Is that Cheeky Hobson? If that's Cheeky Hobson, my guy, we got to update this profile pic. We got the default one on here. Shout out to Cody Carlson. Shout out to Cucumber with the different profile pics. Appreciate it. Love to see it. And this draft is loading in. And this thing is freaking auto drafting right now. Let's move this over. We are going to have to reset this and get this going again. This is a reported bug from that was fixed, I want to say yesterday, but I guess maybe this batch of drafts. What's the draft ID here? Okay. Yeah, I think this batch of drafts was actually done before that bug fix was put out. Cheeky Opson says, yes, it is. Happy to have you in here, my friend. But actually, this draft, we are going to have to let auto down. For whatever reason. Okay. Let me, while we wait on that, just do one more team and then we'll try to do a draft again. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. But devs pushed out that update, and I guess that draft lobby was created on the back end before that auto draft fix update came out. So let me do one more team and then we'll get back over to the drafts. Now, this next one coming out from Trice7 says, hey, Mason, you can see the top 2 teams in the league are loaded. Any moves to make to close the gap? So we are sitting at the 3 spot, but 100% looking at the league analyzer, top 2 teams are absolutely loaded, particularly at quarterback. This team is Lamar and Josh Allen. They also have Gibbs, Bijan, Chase. So when you're sitting with 5 green assets on a team, that is insane. The second best team here is Daniels, Bo Nix, Love, AHN, CMC, Malik Neighbors, St. Brown, Garrett Wilson. So I know a lot of people like view a league like this and go, okay, well, clearly these other teams are going to be the teams that are actually contending. I should go ahead and maybe I should look to play for 2026. But the difficulty is those juggernaut teams, they're not going anywhere anytime soon. And on the flip side of this, while there are some absolute juggernauts, there are some dumpster fire teams that you have here at the very bottom. Where these teams at the very bottom, we're realistically not having to concern ourselves losing to them, right? Where Jawan Jennings is this person's #1 wide receiver. So in that instance, we pretty much are guaranteed to make the playoffs. And these top teams only have to get unlucky 1 week to get bounced, and then we're set up to be just fine. So it sucks when you're going up against the juggernaut teams, but in reality, action steps is you can only really focus it on yourself here. So this is going to be a super standard Dynasty League, 12 teams, start 10, super flex, half PPR, half point tight end premium format. Looking at where we sit positionally at the moment, the league analyzer is telling us our roughest spot is going to be the running back position, which I would typically agree with. And our strongest position is going to be quarterback, which I would also agree with. We have Jalen Hurts, Baker, Purdy, Bryce Young, as well as Geno Smith. So obviously, goes without being said, that the #1 thing that we are looking to do with this team is see if we can try to extract some value from trading away these quarterbacks. Now, if we can look at the other teams in this league that need quarterbacks, the difficulty is, like, these teams at the bottom that Tua, Stafford, Deshaun is that team's quarterback room. This team's Goff, Russ, Levis, Browning. They're going to have no interest in a player like Geno Smith, right? Where if they're looking at Geno Smith, it's like, okay, well, cool. Geno's going to help me contend in the short term, but I'm not a contender. So if we are sending any of these quarterbacks to an absolute dumpster fire team like that, realistically, it's going to have to be Bryce Young. It's going to have to be somebody that's young and you can't convince a rebuilding roster to build their team around in the long term. And we're never starting Bryce Young on our own team. So, I mean, it makes a lot of sense if we would be able to send Young and get a player of significance in return. Looking at the assets that these teams actually have to potentially move the needle for us, this team here that has Tua, Stafford, Deshaun Watson as their 3 quarterbacks, if they are willing to just take the L and realize that they actually have to shut this down and they have to start rebuilding, they have Barkley, which obviously can bridge the gap potentially between us and those top teams, at least in the short term, as we are looking to be pretty competitive. And then they also have a couple of these other interesting assets. They have Devontae Adams, they have Aaron Jones. So one thing that we could try to do with them is just make an overall sweeping pivot where we try to send them Barkley. I'm sorry, we're getting Barkley. We try to send them Young. Is this set up? Okay, this is set up for the 1 quarterback league we were looking at previously. So let's move this over to Superflex. We try to send them young and receive Barkley. And if we are convincing them that they are a clear rebuilder, going through and sending them the 110 and getting back their other contending assets, such as Davante Adams, Aaron Jones, and Evan Ingram, would put us in a spot where maybe we are slightly winning this deal. So in that instance, if we have any of these later rookie picks that we could throw in your thirds, it's not really going to move the needle for us in any type of way. See if this will bridge the gap. It still says we are slightly winning this, but again, if I was a rebuilding roster, I would consider that deal from you, because if you are giving them young, the 110 and a couple late rookie picks, those are assets that very easily could be worth more next offseason, where Barkley, Aaron Jones, Adams, and Evan Ingram are going to be worth almost nothing for them. Or if you bring in Barkley, Aaron Jones to your running back room, we're sitting with Jacobs, Barkley, Aaron Jones, Tony Pollard. We have 2 top-end running backs, and we have 2 decent running back depth pieces. Going over to wide receiver, we'd have Lamb, Adams, Smith, Ayuk, Terry, a wide receiver room we could contend with, and we'd have acceptable tight end depth behind Kittle. Quarterback, we'd be sitting with Hurts, Baker, Purdy, Geno. So from an expected points per game output this next year, obviously it would significantly help us, while at the same time we're not sacrificing so much long-term value, because the expected long-term value that we get with Bryce Young with this quarterback room is negligible. That's one of those teams I'll look to target. Looking at this other team that's here at the very bottom, difficulty is they just don't have the same type of asset of a Saquon Barkley there. They're sitting with like Derrick Henry as a moving piece. They have Derrick Henry, Tyreek. So maybe if we're looking instead at Derrick Henry, Tyreek Hill, sorry, let me refresh this. I also, it looks like value Young more in comparison to some of these other experts on the site. So maybe I sort by my ranks. Where if we're looking at this could be deemed as a fair trade. I would try to squeeze out a little bit more value from them as well in terms of just the absolute depth. Sorry, I have way too many windows open. Like if we could just get a Travis Etienne added on, if you can just get a Michael Pittman added on, even if that means we need to throw in a couple thirds on our end. I mean, like, because what is the rebuilding team's alternative with Derrick Henry, Tyreek? These guys are just worth nothing next offseason. Going over and looking at this team that has Michael Penix, Derek Carr, quarterback, that's obviously rebuilding. They have Bowers. It would be super nice if we could get to Bowers. The difficulty is, obviously, we have a lot of leverage over those rebuilding teams that have assets like Derrick Henry, because they have no option but to eventually sell them. A rebuilding team with Bowers can look at you and go, okay, why the hell am I going to sell Brock? I would love to see if we could send Young the 110, but looks like that's not going to be a possibility. We throw in a couple thirds as well. Still not close. What other teams? This team has Burrow, then Daniels is their quarterback too. They also look like they should be rebuilding. They're sitting with Chase Brown, Joe Mixon at running back, Puka Rice at wide receiver. They have the 109. Maybe this is another instance where we send Bryce Young the 110. We get back Chase Brown. I mean, if you could get Rice, it'd be a no-brainer, but much easier said than done. Yeah, saying we're winning that deal. If we throw in the thirds, doesn't move the needle at all. We throw in the thirds, still slightly winning. But I mean, I'd still be trying to make that type of move. But again, if we're looking at your team across the board, it's not like you have any massive needs other than running back. if you weren't to make any of these trades, the 110, I think you can justify taking either one of the tight ends with Loveland or Warren, or if instead you wanted to pivot over and get Caleb Johnson, RJ Harvey, I wouldn't fault you for that either. But again, my main play is there's so many rebuilding teams in your league. If you look at the bottom of the league analyzer, that if you were to just go through and trade away Bryce Young to one of those rebuilders and potentially include the 110, just get their veteran assets here, build out the top end at running back, throw in an extra depth receiver, I think you could be right there as really the only other team that could contend with the top two juggernauts. And hopefully they see an injury, or hopefully we just get lucky in the playoffs. But I really do appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out in some way with this, my guy. But let me move over real quick and let's try another mock draft here. I know the last mock draft botched it for us, but we are going to be getting in a Superflex rookie mock. We are in here at the 101. Hop in and let's see what happens. Crow says, Dynasty, what is Devonta Smith worth in terms of a rookie pick? If you ever have any questions like this, it is free. Just go to the site. What you can do is, I know we move the rookie picks where it's maybe a little bit tougher to find, but go to the filters and hit the button that says show draft picks. And that's going to add in like the 101 here. You can see like the 101s next to Genty. So you can go and you can look at the wide receiver thing, go over and look at where Devonta Smith is and see like, oh, Devonta Smith's right there with the 109 in terms of what he's worth at the moment. Like Devonta Smith, 109, Egbuka, Golden, they're all in the same range. So I know we moved those rookie picks where it's maybe a little bit tougher to find, but hopefully that helps. But there's one more spot available in this rookie Superflex draft with us on the site. And we do have Cheeky Hobson here on the main account. Happy to see you. But yeah, if you want to get in this with us, you would be picking at the 103. And let's send up a prayer that this mock draft doesn't have the same issue as the other one. And if you're looking at where this is on the site, it's just in the mock draft tab. Go to the Superflex rookie one that says you got one spot open. And I will send that link out in the chat. And it looks like that thing just filled. Send up a prayer that the rookie Superflex does not spaz. Perfect. We are good to go, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry about the difficulty with the previous one. I think that lobby was set up before the devs pushed out the newest update. We are at pick 1. So we have an easy job. We are going to go ahead. We are going to take Genty. After we take Genty, we see Hampton, Hunter, McMillan, and it looks like this may be having the same auto pick issue. So for whatever reason, yeah, it's just turning us all on auto pick. I'm going to have to send this over to the devs. I'm going to have to hop on a call with them, figure out what's happening, because the draft we did previously worked completely fine. No issue. But I think we'll probably call it here. We did do the one quarterback draft at the beginning, but let me end this so I can shoot a message over to the devs and they can look at what's going on with the Superflex mock draft lobby ASAP. But thank you again for hanging out with me, of course, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe we hop in an underdog draft in just a second on the main channel, but I got to talk to them and try to figure out why these Superflex rookie mocks are bugging. But again, really do appreciate you. Really hope you had a great weekend. And maybe I'll see y'all with the main channel in about 15 minutes with an underdog draft.